Tents sprawl under Oakland's glittering skyline, turning city blocks into a maze of makeshift homes. Global homeless news rips away the glossy filter to show what shiny brochures never mention. Travel ads boast of booming jobs and sleek condos, yet fresh canvas villages bloom under every overpass. That so-called rising star is now a front line in a quiet war against the unhoused. Warning signs can no longer hide. People sleep in shop doorways, crowd freeway shoulders, and gather behind luxury towers. This catastrophe did not follow a storm. It was built by policy choices, and it grows each night. Before we dig deeper, smash like, tap subscribe, and let your opinion burst in the comments. Your clicks keep these stories blazing in the open instead of buried. Just blocks from spotless towers and buzzing tech offices, another drama unfolds. Every single day, a humanitarian emergency plays out in plain sight. In 2024, more than 5,490 residents woke up without a roof, a 9% leap in only 2 years. This is not some distant nightmare. It is a raw symptom of a wound tearing across the nation. Even more shocking, 67% of those neighbors have zero shelter. Thousands spend nights in tents, broken cars, thin plywood shacks, or straight on the sidewalk, exposed to cold, rain, and danger that never sleeps. By sunrise, the sidewalks tell the whole story. Discarded blankets pile beside shopping carts, and the smell of smoke from tiny cooking fires hangs in the fog. Rats dart between tents while traffic above roars past, pretending nothing is wrong. Mothers rock babies in battered strollers. Veterans guard small heaps of gear. Teenagers charge phones off car batteries just to keep hope alive. Every face you meet carries a different story, yet each one ends in the same place. No door to lock at night. The face of this crisis keeps changing. 57% of today's unhoused had never faced homelessness before. They were shoved outside when pandemic eviction shields vanished, turning steady lives into a daily fight for survival. Numbers chill the spine, yet still fail to show the crushing human cost. Dignity, safety, and hope drain away each sunrise, only steps from booming tech campuses and glittering lofts. I'm not a man. I could live on the street. I could survive on the street, but I don't belong on the street. None of us belong on the street. A lot of these people on the street are productive members of society. Doctors, lawyers, dentists, secretaries, construction workers, electricians, plumbers, mechanics. All these people here have a trade, and there they've been pushed out by these dot-comers by how Oakland has took the rent control and put on stable. So now the people that, because they're unstable, these guys come in here, they build these places, and now a studio costs $3 grand. Who is studio? Come on. Who pays $3 grand for a studio? His raw words slice through the night like a siren. That jaw-dropping price tag shows exactly who wins and who loses in this real estate rush. Oakland's safety net, once built to catch people in crisis, is ripping apart under impossible demand. 31% of the city's unhoused battle severe mental health struggles that stay untreated and unseen. Another 25% wrestle with substance use each day. Yet steady care and real recovery remain rare. Sacramento rolled out SB 43 and Care Court, steps that force action when illness turns deadly visible. Critics shout that help arrives far too late. They act only after lives already lie in ruins. Meanwhile, the city clings to quick fixes, pop-up shelters, short-term clinics, and sweeping crews that push camps from block to block without solving anything. It is the oldest trick in the homelessness playbook, a bright bandage slapped on a wound that needs real surgery. City leaders promise big plans on shiny stages, yet real change crawls. Budgets shift, committees meet, task forces draft reports, but tents stay rooted like stubborn weeds. Neighbors watch sweeps move people 1 block north and 2 blocks west, a cruel shuffle that burns trust and drains energy. Advocates beg for permanent supportive housing that pairs a key with a caseworker. They ask for tiny home villages, safe parking sites, and job programs that lead to real paychecks. They demand prevention, so people never fall through the first crack. But what happens next is even scarier. Without bold moves on low-cost housing, solid mental health care, and strong recovery paths, these gestures stay pure political theater. Flashy headlines without hope. The unhoused are veterans, parents, workers, and elders slipping through a safety net full of holes. Officials thunder with promises, yet results whisper so quietly you can barely hear them. Global homeless news will keep shining a light until real solutions rise from these streets. Broken promises echo through City Hall while tents rise outside the windows. Officials smile behind microphones, rolling out press briefings, blue ribbon panels, and glossy action plans that sound caring yet fix little. Scratch the surface and the shine flakes away, revealing what looks like a slick publicity shield that never reaches the streets. In 2024, leaders spent more than $7.2 million to shut 3 huge camps and place residents in hotel rooms. On paper, that looks bold, yet in practice it barely nudged the emergency. Moving people from sidewalks to single beds without any lasting path is a grim game of musical chairs. And when the song ends, many stand outside again, clutching plastic bags under neon lights. Even worse news lurks ahead. 2 of West Oakland's largest shelters will lock their doors by mid-2025. Not because need fell, but because leases expired and budgets stalled while officials hid the paperwork. Closing beds when thousands already sleep on asphalt feels less like oversight and more like cruelty dressed in gray suits. So how can leaders brag about progress while they pull apart the last safety net? How can they pose for photo ops while cutting the very lifelines they claim to defend? Homelessness does more than steal dignity from each person on the curb. It unravels whole neighborhoods. Blocks beside sprawling camps now battle fires in vacant lots, sudden break-ins on once quiet streets, intense confrontations that no longer shock anyone. Family shops that survive for generations are shuttering as customers stay away and owners grow tired of plywood windows and nightly alarms. Parents who once watched kids play tag across green lawns now count needles near the swings, then pack moving trucks and drive off at dawn. Another danger grows silently behind the chaos. Untreated waste sinks into soil and trickles into waterways, while collapsing shacks leave jagged piles of lumber and metal that city crews cannot clear fast enough. Polluted runoff drifts into creeks and the bay, harming every resident whether they sleep indoors or under tarps. Inside meeting rooms, these truths are softened or spun into tidy talking points. Yet what we face is no longer only a human tragedy. It is also an environmental emergency, an economic weight, and a moral alarm bell that gets louder each day we stall. Certain streets now carry heavy reputations. Lake Merritt, once Oakland's bright postcard, juggles life as weekend getaway and sprawling camp at the very same time. Long stretches of East 12th Street beneath the rattling BART tracks host hundreds without toilets or steady power, turning a transit corridor into a valley of neglect. The famous Wood Street camp was cleared with triumphal speeches, yet replacement sites hold too few beds and shaky services, telling the same story again. Move them along, but never move them forward. Deep inside this crisis hangs a knotted web of failures built over decades. Many in power still point at mental illness or drug use, but those issues skim only the surface. The true wrecking ball is the brutal shortage of homes ordinary workers can afford. Rents shot upward while wages stalled, stretching the gap between paychecks and monthly bills until it snapped. When even a full-time job cannot promise a roof, losing housing shifts from rare misfortune to near certainty for anyone one setback away from empty pockets. Gentrification pours fuel on the flames, inching block by block as new projects push up prices and push out longtime neighbors, often in Black and Latino districts that shaped Oakland's soul. Rising property values reward investors, yet force elders to pack memories into cardboard boxes and hunt for rent within shrinking options. The day eviction moratoriums vanished, Thousands who had barely stayed afloat tumbled over the edge. Black and Latino households hit hardest by old injustices fell fastest, landing on cold pavement with little warning. Still, some leaders prefer the easy story that blames personal choices, because that dodges the systems they helped steer. Anyone who listens beside campfires knows many paths into homelessness start with a surprise hospital bill, a sudden layoff, or a tape notice that the rent will jump beyond reach. Nothing about this disaster was pre-written in stone. It grew from policy decisions that placed luxury towers above starter apartments, profit above people, and short wins above lasting balance. Until City Hall names those roots and tears them out. Every new promise will be more sparkling paint on a cracking wall. If Oakland, and this entire country, truly wants to end homelessness, then we have to stop pretending that short-term fixes are enough. Sweeping sidewalks, shutting down camps, or rotating people through crowded shelters doesn't solve anything. We need solutions that heal, not just hide the damage. Real change begins with permanent supportive housing. That means affordable homes paired with real support. Mental health care, addiction treatment, job training, and counseling that helps people rebuild, not just survive. A few temporary shelters won't cut it. People need safe, stable homes where they can finally breathe without fear of being shoved back onto the streets. Mental health care and addiction treatment must be treated like rights, not rare perks. Instead of punishing people for struggling, we need to meet them with help that actually works. Mobile outreach teams, crisis response units, and long-term therapy options should meet people where they are, on the sidewalk, in a car, behind a building, not miles away behind waiting lists and red tape. Legal and financial support are just as critical. Stopping evictions before they happen is always cheaper and far less painful than trying to save families after they've already lost everything. Emergency rent help, free legal aid, and strong tenant protections shouldn't depend on leftover budgets or election years. They should be guaranteed. But even the best programs will fail if they ignore the voices of those most affected. Real change only happens when people who've lived through homelessness are involved in designing the solutions. Their insight isn't optional, it's essential. We need city leaders, nonprofits, local organizers, and people with lived experience working together, side by side. And it's time to stop pouring money into fake mixed-income buildings that only look inclusive on paper. We need truly affordable housing, places single moms, veterans, working families, and minimum wage workers can actually afford. Because homelessness isn't just some natural disaster. It's a result of decisions we've made, and we're long overdue to start making better ones. This crisis in Oakland, and all across America, isn't a glitch in the system. It is the system screaming back at us. It's a mirror, showing us a society that decided long ago that profit matters more than people and appearances matter more than solutions. And here's the hardest truth of all. This isn't just about tents or trash or suffering on the streets. It's about us. It's about how we've trained ourselves to look away. We step around people lying on sidewalks, eyes glued to our phones, pretending we didn't see. But we did, and we still do. Housing isn't a reward for being good enough. It's a human right, as essential as water and air. When cities allow people to rot in plain sight, when governments cut corners and call it policy, when voters shrug off homelessness like it's someone else's problem, that rot doesn't stay on the edges. It creeps into the center, into the soul of our communities. No society that allows mass homelessness can ever claim to be strong or just or whole. Dignity isn't something that only belongs to the lucky few. It's something everyone deserves. And until we start acting like every single life matters, our cities will keep falling apart. Not from lack of money, but from lack of courage. Oakland shows exactly what happens when indifference becomes the strategy. So the real question is, how much longer are we willing to look away? The crisis we see today didn't come out of nowhere. It was built slowly, deliberately, by policy decisions that lack compassion, by budgets with no vision, and by a society that got way too comfortable watching people suffer. But this story can change. We must demand bold action, not tired excuses. Call out elected leaders who fail to deliver. Support groups building real housing solutions. Refuse to treat homelessness as just the way things are. Because behind every number is a real person. And behind every person is a story worth saving. Oakland, like many cities, is at a fork in the road. Keep going down this path of neglect and empty talk, or rise up with courage, care, and real action. The future of homelessness in America and the soul of our cities comes down to what we choose next. Oakland isn't the exception. It's the warning sign. Homelessness didn't explode overnight. It grew brick by brick, vote by vote, budget cut by budget cut. The way forward is clear. Build real homes, not pop-up shelters. Fund mental health care, not endless camp sweeps. Protect renters before they fall. And above all, refuse to accept homelessness as normal. Every single day, Oakland streets tell a story. Now the only question is, do we have the guts to change the ending?